Town Dock today. I'm sure most of you know about Old Town Dock. It has been here in Tacoma since 1873, so it's a major fixture in our city. And recently it's been restored and reopened, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do some public art that is permanently a part of the dock now. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. When it was built in 1873, Old Town Dock served the shipping industry, but has become so much more than an industrial port for the city. It's really become a symbol of our connection between land and sea, and I think it's an interesting spot because it's really one of only a handful of places in the city where you can get a 360-degree view and there's something beautiful to see in every direction. So that's kind of what got me interested in the space. So this is an image from the 1949 Aquatic Follies. And Old Town Dock was a huge gathering place for many, many years. And so if you go to the Northwest Room at the Tacoma Public Library, you'll find a lot of images like this. So you can see the Top of the Ocean restaurant there in the background. And Old Town Dock has kind of been central in people's lives for many years as well. This is an old wedding photo that I found where the whole family gathered on the dock to take their photographs. And so this has really been a fixture in our lives, and people have their own personal stories about the dock. When I went to research the space, I talked to as many different people as I could, and I heard so many stories like this, that, oh, my husband proposed to me on the dock, or my grandpa and I used to fish off the dock when I was a kid, and unfortunately you can't fish off the dock anymore. And so this is how the dock looked when we did kind of the ribbon cutting, the sort of soft opening for it. But if you compare that to how it looked just a couple of years ago, there's a major, major difference. Now, I moved to Tacoma just 5 years ago, and so I did not get to see Old Town Dock when it was open before. So it was closed shortly before I moved here. And when I applied to be when I became one of the finalists for the public art project, I got a chance to go out there and take a look at the space. And even though it was covered with shells and the wood was rotted, I could still see how important the space was and what a beautiful part of the city it was. So the other people who were there that day kind of brought out their cameras and were taking pictures, but I actually purposefully did not bring a camera that day. This last picture was from, I came back a couple weeks later. So instead I brought out a sketchbook and I just kind of faced in every direction and did a little drawing everywhere I looked, because I was really interested in the fact that you really can see something in every direction. So that kind of got the wheels turning there. And the thing that really struck me about the dock as well was that this is a huge, huge space. And I didn't want to create a piece of art that interfered with the large space. So I wanted to, first of all, encourage people to look in every direction, and second, to maybe interact with the space in a way that was small and subtle. So I started thinking in terms of that. And the other thing was I was thinking about how, now I am a landlubber, I don't have a boat, I've never had a boat, and but I know that Old Town Dock is important to people who have boats, human-powered boaters, people who kayak, people who participate in the Dragon Boat celebration every year. So this is a portal not just for people coming from the land side, but from the water side as well. So I wanted to think in terms of that. So I started thinking about portholes and small circular images. And I started thinking about all of these stories that people had about the dock and their personal relationship with the area. And so I started sketching out these little vignettes. And this is what I came up with. So the piece consists of 24 of these illustrations, and the overall title is Droplets. I was thinking about the water and our connection with the water here in the city, and these stories that people were telling me and these stories that I was unearthing through my research. And these stories are as common as raindrops. They're everywhere, and yet they are incredibly important. They're as important as water is to our lives and to our identity as a city. So that's where the title came from. So each of these images references a story about the dock. And this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but I wanted to give kind of an overview of what has unfolded on this site over the years. So you can see there's some logging images down in the corner, there's a bride down in the middle on the bottom. So I was kind of aiming for some urban images, some industrial images, some personal family images, and also the wildlife that exists around this area. It's not enough to just do an image, as I found out with public art. This is only my second big public art piece, so I'm kind of new to this world. I am primarily an illustrator in my studio practice, so I can do the image making part. But what I was not really familiar with was how to get my images into the public realm and in a permanent material that was going to stand the test of time, especially in the harsh marine environment down on the dock. So what I ended up doing was having the pieces fabricated in a material called porcelain enamel. And I brought an example of it, and it has a very random image of a baboon here. So I'm going to pass this around, and you can see that about the only thing that porcelain enamel is vulnerable to is blunt force trauma, which I found out this morning when I dropped it in my driveway. But porcelain enamel is kind of an amazing material. What it is it's an enamel on steel. So it's basically a glazed steel that is printed on and then fired. And there's a place in Olympia called Windsor Fire Forum that does this, and they're one of only 2 places in the whole country that actually do it. And the thing about porcelain enamel is that it can hold detail like any printing method, so you can basically put any image you want on there. And it's totally unreactive. It will not fade in UV light. It is naturally graffiti resistant, so if someone spray paints it, you can just take some rubbing alcohol and you're good. So about the only thing that will harm it is if someone were to say, take a sledgehammer to it. So that was the material that I had to work with, and what was kind of great about this project was that I didn't actually have to fire this enamel myself. So I had the freedom to make the imagery and then hire this contractor to do the firing for me. So as I said before, the dock is a huge, huge space, and when I was brought in on the project, it wasn't entirely clear what they were going to do to restore the dock, what they were going to keep, what was going to go where, what kind of railings they were going to have. And so basically all I had was a few scale drawings, and they kept telling me, well, this might change. And so another reason to do these 24 small images is that there was the flexibility to move them around if I had to. So what I did, I'm sorry this is a little bit cut off here, was do a scale drawing of my own with the 24 images that I designed, and then a key as to where they were going to go. And actually, I had to move around a couple of these, but for the most part, what you see here is what exists on the dock. So what I didn't mention before is these images are very small. Most of them are 3 inches in diameter, and a couple of them are 6 inches in diameter. So they're really, really, really small, and that is a purposeful thing. So you can see here that this is the surface of the disc when I got them back from the enameler. So the enamel is just slightly raised on the surface, and then it's just a flat metal on the back. So what we did was the friendly contractor kind of brought me in one day when they were done with they were done with most of the cosmetic stuff on the dock, and he brought me in and we measured out everything, and what he ended up doing was routing out disc-shaped insets into the various surfaces on an extremely cold day, and then using marine sealant to hold them in place. And this marine sealant is amazing as the porcelain enamel is. I saw all these videos of this being the only thing holding a boat together. So it's very strong stuff. And so there's the piece when it's finished. So I have some photos to show of these pieces in situ, but you might be able to get an idea of where they are, but I'm not going to be super specific here because I want you to go and find them. This is kind of the point of the piece, is to be a little bit of a scavenger hunt. So right now there is no signage yet. So there's nothing that really provides context for the piece yet. There will be a sign eventually. They're rebuilding the bathroom down there, and the signage will all go on the side of that building, but I don't have a date yet for when that's going to happen. But even when there is signage, it still won't tell you where these things are. So this is kind of, it's been fun to watch people interact with this piece, and kids really take right to it, and they just kind of instinctively know exactly what to do, and they just run off and start looking. So we did have a big grand opening a couple of months ago, and so we had these temporary banners up, and they let me design them, which was really fun. So I wanted to really encourage people to look in every direction, to look up, to look down, to look in as many obvious and maybe not so obvious places as you could think of to find these things. And I had a couple people come up to me, and they were determined to find every single one, and by God, they did. And some are easier to find than others. So it can be a challenge. And I can tell you right now, there are 2 that you can only see from the water. So that's the biggest hint I'm going to give you. So it's been really fun to just watch people interact with these pieces and find them. And you know, at the opening, everyone knew that I was the artist, but I keep going down there and seeing people looking for them, and I just kind of like standing on the sidelines and watching this happen. And this is my favorite. Somebody sent me this. And then, I mean, this just melts my heart whenever I see little kids really get into it. So this has been an incredibly rewarding project, and I think the best part of all is that people still come up to me after they've seen this work and they say, oh yeah, I have a story to tell you about Old Town Dock. And so I'm still collecting these stories, and I hope people continue to pass them along, because that's my favorite part. So I encourage you to go down there and take a look and see how many of these droplets that you can find. Thank you very much.